Appreciate all of y'all's time. We're here to talk to you guys about an idea that came to mind and something we wanted to explore using DIDs and VCs. We call it Homey. Effectively, what it is a decentralized housing rental platform that aims to kind of replace incumbents in the space, including Airbnb and Vrbo, offering a decentralized, transparent alternative. Next slide, please. So, the housing market broadly, it doesn't have to be as complicated as it is today. People broadly want two things, right? People that own real estate want to make money off of their real estate, particularly when it's vacant. And renters, all of us, want to find affordable short-term accommodations that are flexible, safe to use, and comfortable. Um, Typically, these processes are handled by centralized providers, and we could talk about that in the next slide. Legacy solutions, exist, and we use things like Airbnb, Vrbo. Perhaps we go to a hotel's website to find a short-term accommodation for, say, a vacation, a wedding, some sort of conference, any event that we want to go to for the short term. We have to go through centralized solutions. If I'm a tenant that owns real estate, I have to rely on these centralized solutions to get liquidity on vacancies in my real estate as well. And there's drawbacks here, right? So if Airbnb goes down, then all of a sudden I lose cash flow on my real estate. Lots of people that would be able to take part in the real estate liquidity market aren't able to due to extensive regulation and sign up friction on these platforms. Not only that, when you use these platforms, they extract some percentage of the transactions between the users, and there's very little flexibility in how much data you're able to hide or share with your counterparties. So it's really up to what the platform decides is best. And one of the big learnings that we found is that this is for good reason, right? We want to make sure that the housing process is something comfortable for everybody. There are rules and regulations in place for good reason. But what these rules and regulations exist for is to basically provide assurance that this actor is a good one, that they're behaving in good faith. What we think can happen is we can establish an identity-based reputation primitive that can use DIDs and VCs to attach reputation and represent it digitally on-chain. We see this as a broad solution for lots of different problems, real estate being a great place to start. So, next slide, please. Like we said, the experience doesn't have to be complicated. Typically, what I've seen my friends do when they have a 2-week vacancy or a 1 to 2 month vacancy is they'll go onto Facebook and they'll post to their network. They'll go on Instagram and post a story saying, hey, I've got 2 months of my lease. Anybody want to go ahead and live in Colorado for a little bit? They're leveraging basically the trust associated with their social networks to fill out these gaps. What we hope we can do is bring that same level of trust in a verifiable capacity on chain so that you're not limited to just the social network that you're associated with, but rather you can have the full reach of the internet and you can trust all the actors that are with you because there are verifiable credentials ensuring that they are indeed good actors. And we'll talk a bit more about what that looks like. But broadly, and I think on the highest level, this is an exercise in making a platform that incentivizes good actors and disincentivizes bad actors. If we want our credits, this on-chain reputation-based credit score to work, it does have to be consequential to some degree. And so the rules associated with that are very important. And so let's talk about the solution a bit. Next slide, please. So the solution and what it looks like is to build a platform that has a robust marketplace. What this means is there's a very large supply side and a very large demand side. Lots of postings being put up and lots of renters looking for accommodation. Another large advantage that we'd like to highlight is having control over what data is shared. You don't necessarily have to share your name, your background, your occupation, similar to what is often required in Airbnb and Vrbo interactions. We want to kind of leave this at the discretion of the two counterparties involved in the deal. If they're comfortable with one another off of some amount of information, then there shouldn't be any need for them to overshare. Similarly, if they're not comfortable with one another based off of some amount of information, they should be able to have that flexibility to share whatever amount they feel fit sharing. The main solution to this is having a proof of one's behavior, this reputation on chain. This reputation should be tamper proof, it should be self custodial, and the mechanisms that determine it have to be transparent. So we don't see Homey as a company, rather, we see it as a housing protocol where all of its rules and software is open source and transparent, and it's basically an alternative to building your classic credit score and attaching it to your digital identity. Here, if you behave like a good actor on the platform, that means as a tenant, if you keep a clean lodging with running hot water and broadly meet some set of criteria, people can attest to your good actions and you can build a reputation as a good tenant. Similarly, as a renter, if you treat people's property with respect, and you spend your time there for the agreed amount of time, and you don't act with ill will, you should be able to generate some sort of reputation off of that so that you have access to this platform. So counterparties will attest to your good faith actions, and then once they attest to them, Homey can issue a verifiable credential to your DID that says this person has had this interaction and he acted in good faith. When asked, you could use this verifiable credential on many different areas outside of real estate. That's kind of jumping beyond the scope of what we've had to here today. But what we are trying to build is an on chain, socially verified, real estate specific credit score that can establish yourself as a good actor. Next slide, please. So, Umaima, go for it.
Yes, thank you so much. So after seeing the solution that Homies is providing, now so the verification credential that we do have, that we do provide are valuable. So the thing that we focus on are essentials, so having a lot of rentals, so that will lead to good faiths. Also having a good amount of transactions, that's also going to lead to good faith, since like you had been purchasing a lot of things when it comes to our services. And also those two things will lead to having a Homey's credit score that is going to be high. And when it comes to this score, it could also be only the only one that is going to be shown, since in our VS, in this Homey, where the VS can take, if they want to show what's part of the identity they want to show. So for example, if the amount of money that this person had gained doesn't want to be released or shown to others, so only by getting the critical score will show that this person is owning a lot of money. Next slide.
All right, so I'm gonna talk about Homey rental user flow. So the best way is to show you guys a demo of what we've built. You see via the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Awesome. Okay, so as a renter, so my name is John Doe, and I'm a renter. So I go to Homey app, and then I look for apartments that fit my needs. So I see there's one tenant right here, and I'm deciding if this tenant is reliable. I just hit on verify tenant. And then it will leads me to the Trinsic platform where I can verify this VC. Okay. and I can view this tenant's credential. I can see their name, email, the apartment address to make sure that this apartment is belongs to the right tenant. And supposedly I can see their credit score rating as well. And I hit on verify, and you can see the tenant is verified along with their VC. And then, so if the renter trusts the tenant and commits to stay, money enters smart contract controlled escrow. And then the next step would be stay concludes, and then tenant and renter evaluate each other's interactions. Did they behave in good faith or bad faith? It is updated, and the VC reflects the updated credentials.
Right. So I can see some questions popping up in the chat. I'm definitely happy to speak to them afterwards. What I'd like to talk about is what the grander vision is for why Homey over, say, Airbnb or Verbo. And the idea is that we prioritize data flexibility and open source all platform code so that your reputation and the decisions that are made regarding your reputation are transparent. If the same rules apply to everybody, and if we can enforce them to everybody, then there's a certain guarantee that you have that when your Homey score is high, you are a good actor, and that's what we aim to build in the longest term with this platform. It's a complicated task, but we think that there's something to be said about having these credentials be socially verified from one another. Another really important aspect is the data control, right? We can add written claims and testaments from counterparties. So if you're a tenant and you did a really good job, your renter could say, this person did a really good job, and you can have that claim be described in the VC. You could also have flexibility about what other types of attestations you'd want displayed. If you want a number of good faith interactions displayed, you can have that. If you would only want your Homey credit score to be displayed, you could have that. If you want some combination of attestations to be displayed, you can have that as well. Point being that you own your data and you can decide flexibly how much you want to display in order to take part in the platform. Next slide, please. So there's lots of concerns that come with attaching reputation to your decentralized ID. Obviously, if this platform were to become consequential, having a bad reputation could indeed harm a lot of your digital interactions. So one of the things that we want to start thinking about is on-chain data visibility and privacy issues. If we're going to store the record of all these attestations on-chain, and this chain is transparent, in theory, somebody could gather a large enough amount of information about a single DID that kind of violates the privacy of that DID. So if we have 10 uh, verified stays that are attached to a single DID, and if the renter stayed at that DID's tenancy, then they can attach that DID to an address, giving up information that shouldn't be given up. That's where zero knowledge proofs come into place, and where we can know that this person had 10 good interactions without going and counting out and seeing the details in all 10 of those interactions. So kind of a cool concept there to see how zero knowledge proofs can be applied in reputation verification. Another problem is, how does somebody with no interactions or reputation get started? Couple of solutions here. One of them is a community-oriented jumpstart attestation where perhaps 5 verified users can vouch for a new user, and that could get them started on the platform. Another way to get somebody started is through a deposit mechanism where bad actors are financially harmed and their deposit gets waived to the counterparty. Um, Really difficult questions come into play when we think about what kind of penalties exist and what kind of settlements exist when it comes to the actions of bad actors. I see a question in the chat, right, and it says, "Can I report bed bugs to the renter at the rental, and can I at least report that to the owner?" Yes, you can, and in doing so, what you're going to be doing is harming the reputation of your counterparty, right? The idea is that if we can design mechanisms that force everybody to act honestly, then people will not act in bad faith. That's the hope. Um, Reporting these bed bugs, however, could also be a lie, right? So it's very important. And when I say mechanism design, we want to design the incentive structure here so that you are exactly truthful about the nature of it. You are neither hiding the bed bugs nor you are exaggerating the bed bugs when you go to report it. So once we have the right mechanism set up within the system, we can basically generate a community that is fully transparent, fully honest, and eventually can use this reputation as a jumpstart for all kinds of on-chain credit that can enable lots of interactions in different realms outside of real estate as well. Um, that kind of covers, what we wanted to speak about. I appreciate y'all's time. Bit more abstract than some of the other stuff that's been presented today, but if you have questions about, how this came to be or how we might address some of the concerns, I'd love to jump into them.
All right, guys,
Thank
thank you so much. It looks like we do have some questions that are coming into the chat, so I will just wait and see what pops in there for a moment. Fuzzy feelings for couch surfing, okay. Someone's asking if you've explored the eigentrust algorithm. Did I get that right?
I have not personally. I will look into it to see how it might help with some of this, but sounds cool.
Someone's asking, what about something like Homey for affordable home construction?
I think that affordable home construction is a public good. And because it's a public good, the having kind of like an on-chain voting mechanism would be fantastic for that. And so similar ideas, and I'd love to kind of explore how the two can overlap.